How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here nationwide. It is Yom Kippur. A terror attack on this highest of Jewish holy days has happened in the United Kingdom. 2 people are dead on a synagogue attacked. Several others are injured. There was a ramming of a vehicle and a stabbing outside the synagogue. The attacker drove a car into a group of people in Manchester, England, at 9:30 a.m. Before getting out and stabbing people. They were able to stop the individual. It was an Islamic terrorist, though you should note we live in this bizarre world now where the UK has fallen into the hands of its migrant horde, and so they're refusing to yet say that it was a terror attack. The Prime Minister of Great Britain, who has decided to reward Hamas by recognizing a Palestinian state against Israel, had this to say.
I will chair an emergency. In Manchester this morning is absolutely shocking, and all of our thoughts are with those affected. I'm on my way back to London. When I arrive, I will chair an emergency COBRA meeting. I'm already able to say that additional police assets are being deployed to synagogues across the country, and we will do everything to keep our Jewish community safe.
Yeah, except actually defend them against Muslims. There's this very bizarre evolution in British thought as they've overwhelmed themselves with migrants from the Middle East, from Africa, from Pakistan, and the like, from a lot of Muslim countries where they, to a degree, the white establishment there of the Labour Party and the Tories are scared of the migrants. They are throwing people in jail for tweets. Literally, the other day, it was one of the weirdest things I've seen. Video came out of a court hearing in London where a man was going to be sentenced to prison and was for 2 years in prison for putting up a tweet suggesting they round up and deport Islamic immigrants who marry their cousins because it was offensive. And now on this, the highest of Jewish holy days, there is an attack. So right by my office, I'm coming broadcasting today from my flagship station, have an event tonight for Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. And as I was coming to my office, I noticed a large group of people walking across the street and some walking up the sidewalk from my office, having parked their cars. And they were all Jews headed to the synagogue next door for their religious ceremonies on this, their high holy day. This is essentially, for Christians, Easter is the highest of the holy days, and for Jews, today is. Coming after Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, this is the day of repentance, the day of atonement, the highest holy day, according to God, to the Jews as they wandered in the wilderness, and he was giving Moses direction. And they were all congregating. And I thought to myself for a minute, it's good and it's a blessing here to have noticed a lack of security. They felt comfortable where I am in the South, walking up the street together en masse. There was no security. There were no police. In much of the world, and including in parts of the United States now, it's almost impossible for a Jewish group to gather without absurd security, given the level of anti-Semitism that is stirring in the United States, given the absolute bizarre hatred of Jews that has morphed into an anti-Israel sentiment. It was reassuring to me, I guess I should say, to be able to see this, although I will tell you there's a Jewish community center north of Atlanta. Bernie Marcus, the famed founder of Home Depot, along with Arthur Blank and a couple others, gave the money for this Marcus Center. And the security at this place, I'm trying to think, I can't think of any Christian organization I'm aware of, anywhere in the South in particular, that has the security arrangements that this Jewish community center needs to have. And by the way, it's not that they want it, it's they need it, even in Atlanta. More so in the United Kingdom. Christians and Jews together, or Orthodox Christians and Jews, and I should say Orthodox Christians, I don't mean the denomination Orthodoxy, Greek Orthodox, I mean actually Bible-believing Christians and Jews in the United Kingdom are now more and more persecuted by the British government, by Islamic terrorists. I was talking to a friend who participates in a church service and missionary project in Great Britain a couple of weeks ago, and he said, yes, the Christians in Great Britain are increasingly wary of the direction of that nation, despite the fact that you would have it believed the King of England is the supreme governor of the Church of England. Charles himself and his son William have no discernible faith at all. And here today, now we have this attack. These happen increasingly around the world, and it comes as well as we have this bizarre claim of genocide in Gaza. I mentioned yesterday, Ilya Shapiro was supposed to speak at New York University Law School. They have canceled his speech, not because he was talking about the events of October 7th, 2023. He just was a Jew who happened to be speaking on their campus on October 7th, 2025. And they said, because of the events in Gaza on October 7th, 2023, we hope he might reschedule. Nothing happened in Gaza on October 7th. You understand that, right? Nothing happened in Gaza on October 7th. What happened on October 7th happened in Israel proper. The murder of 1,200 Jews. Scott Galloway, who is a progressive but very thoughtful, was on Morning Joe on MSNBC this morning. I saw this, and it really puts into context what's going on here. And every single one of you, we put this in the show notes. I sent it to Philip and said, please make sure this is in the show notes. If you text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, the very first link you can go, the show notes, let me check my inbox. I assume everybody has the show notes. Yep, the show notes are out in your inbox, and it is the very first must-watch clip there in the show notes. You can subscribe, text Eric to 33777, or just go click through. And I want you to be able to circulate this video clip of Scott Galloway this morning on MSNBC.
2,200 American servicemen killed at Pearl Harbor. We go on to kill 3.5 million Japanese, including 100,000 in one night. 2,800 Americans in 9/11. We go on to kill 400,000 people in Afghanistan and Iraq. We weren't accused of genocide. You had, if Mexico had elected a jihadist cartel to run their country, and then they incurred into Texas, and on a per capita basis killed 35,000 people, or the population of the University of Texas, and on the way back took the freshman class at SMU hostage and hid them under tunnels, what would we do? It'd be the great Sonora radioactive parking lot. But Jews are not allowed, and Israel is not allowed to prosecute a war. And they are prosecuting a war more humanely than we have done. The ratio of combatants to civilians is, of civilian death to combatant mortality is lower than it was in Mosul, lower than it was in Japan, lower than it was in Germany. So there's just a different standard for Jews in Israel when it comes to prosecuting a war. They're allowed to fight back to a truce. But unlike America or any other Western nation that has attacked this viciously, they're not allowed to win a war. It's a double standard.
That's Scott Galloway on MSNBC this morning, and he's not wrong. There is a double standard. When he talks about taking the population of SMU, that's Southern Methodist University in Dallas, taking the population of SMU hostage on a per capita basis, based on the number of Israeli citizens and the number of people taken hostage, to take an equivalent comparable population size in the United States hostage, you would have to take the population of Southern Methodist University hostage. And to comparably kill the same percentage of population that was killed in Israel on October 7th, you would have to kill the entire student body population of the University of Texas. And that's what he's saying. If jihadis killed the entirety of the population of the University of Texas and took the entirety of the population of Southern Methodist University hostage and carried them back into Mexico, what do you think the response of the United States would be? That's what happened to Israel on October 7th. And yet we are told it's a genocide in Gaza, though they have killed far less people in Gaza than we killed in Mosul, population percentage-wise, or that we killed in World War II in Germany or Japan. And yet it's called a genocide by the people who keep telling us that every hospital in Gaza has been bombed. And apparently they can build these hospitals overnight because they spring back and are bombed again as the last hospital in Gaza. And the American media sells you on the propaganda. Remember the woman who died of cancer, and we were told she was killed by the Israelis. Only 2 days later that they come out and said, our bad, Israel was actually airlifting her to a hospital in Italy when she died. Remember the misinformation and disinformation about Israel killing people in Gaza that inspired the guy in Boulder, Colorado to go firebomb the Holocaust survivor who died because of it. And then only after the woman died and the others were injured did the media say, oh, sorry, we got that wrong. This is the Day of Atonement for Jews around the world, where they also grapple with forgiveness. I would have a hard time forgiving the American media for the slanders that they have perpetuated that have caused a number of Jewish American citizens to be murdered because the American press corps has willfully lied. We'll get into the other news of the day, obviously, and I'll talk about the shutdown here in just a little while, but I think it was very important today to start with something else, to start with yet another terror attack on yet another synagogue by yet another Islamic terrorist in Great Britain, happening around the world. And the American press corps goes over these attacks on synagogues and Jewish temples much like they do American school shootings. Unless it's a white kid who's a MAGA supporter, they move on in less than 24 hours. Now, if it's a MAGA kid doing it, if it's a white nationalist shooting up a synagogue, they'll cover that for 2-3 weeks and try to blame Donald Trump. But when it's someone yelling Allahu Akbar who runs over people in a car and then jumps out with a knife and starts stabbing them up, we can't talk about that one. We got to move on to something else. Let's go see if we can blame the Republicans for the government shutdown. The media almost hopes that it's a white kid in a MAGA cap doing the killing so they can spend some time on it vilifying Republicans. When it's a transgender shooter in Minnesota or in Tennessee, we got to move on quick. Let's not dwell on this. We don't want hate for that community. You know what's going to happen within the next 12 hours in Great Britain? The conversation is going to be, we don't want hate on the Islamic community. We're sorry, Jews, but we don't want hate on this other community. It's where the American progressive left is in this country. It's where we are headed globally, unless we're willing to still speak up and be bold. And I got to tell you, there are progressives on the right, and you just need to accept it. We'll get into a wild story about progressives on the right here in a little bit, what's happening in Tennessee. But there are those on the left and the right who hate free speech. They want their speech and no other speech. And it's not just a symptom of the left. There are those on the right as well. We in this country are unique from all other countries because we have the First Amendment and we can stand up and speak, and we have an obligation. I think I have an obligation behind a broadcast microphone to put it as plainly and straight as possible for you that this continues to happen around the world, including in allied nations like Great Britain and here in the United States. And because it was an Islamic terrorist who did it, you know and I know the media will move on from the story as quickly as possible. And yet in this country, we continue to see at colleges and universities around the United States the same sort of things festering, the same hatred and contempt for Jews in this country festering, the same hatred and contempt for anyone who would defend Israel festering, and the media gives these people platforms. The media elevates these people, and the Democratic Party, not just the progressive left, but the Democratic Party itself elects them into Congress and excuses their behavior. Greetings, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. Let's go to the phones, 877-973-7425. Frank, you're going to be up first today. Wow, Frank. Oh, there you go.
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Great. Okay, the background noise is gone.
I'm a first-time caller, long-time listener. I was just going to ask you, going back to Islamic terrorists, if you will, how are groups like CARE, I'm sure you know who that is, How are they allowed to operate freely in the U.S., when they're outlawed in the UAE, among other places?
So because they are organized differently in this country, frankly, and for those of you who don't know what CARE is, it's the Council for American Islamic Relations. There's also the Muslim Brotherhood, and they're operated somewhat quasi-independently from each other. And in this country, they're not a designated terror group. Now, there are Islamic groups in this country tied into those that are Islamic terror groups, and President Trump has considered adding them to the terror group in this country. But there actually is an intelligence process the country goes through to certify that these groups are terrorists. I will tell you, I think the Council for American Islamic Relations is not a good group, tends to be a cover group, and tends to harass anyone who dares to stand up to them, and more people need to stand up to them. And, of course, the Muslim Brotherhood, I do believe that they are on watch lists in this country. And the Muslim Brotherhood is a deeply destabilizing organization around the world that you should note so many of the Arab leaders in the Middle East even banned the Muslim Brotherhood from operating in those countries because of the nefarious nature they believe that this particular organization operates as. I think in this country we've probably tried to overcorrect on being tolerant, and we need to be less tolerant of the amount of stuff that festers anti-Semitism inside the United States, which I think is happening. Now, I need to tell you about my friends at Americans for Prosperity. They are leading an effort now for permitting reform in the United States. Now, you're wondering, what is permitting reform? Well, permitting reform is the American left has actually made it very, very difficult to get, for example, power plants built in this country. But it's not just power plants that they struggle with. It is if you want to lay down pipelines or you want to build a railroad, things like that. Permitting reform has become very, very difficult to get done in this country. And the friends of mine at Americans for Prosperity are trying to get people to engage on permitting reform, and they'd love to have you help them. They have a website. I'm going to it now, prosperityispossible.com. Prosperityispossible.com. They're encouraging Congress to fix the permitting process in this country, to be able to incentivize the rapid deployment of new energy products on our power grid and new pipelines in this country. But they need your help. If you go to prosperityispossible.com, you can help Americans for Prosperity fight for common sense conservative solutions around the country. When we come back, the play-by-play in the shutdown, the president warning Democrats this morning he's about to let Russ Vogt go loose. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Eric Erickson here. We've got much to say on the shutdown, and I need to begin with a tweet of the President of the United States. He put this up this morning just before 7 a.m. as I was trying to get my kid ready for school. Side note, I'm just going to stop and deviate because you might as well know. I'm not in the best mood today. So I did 2 radio shows yesterday. First of all, Christy's got a broken foot. I think most of you know she fell down. She was trying to look cute. I might as well just tell you the story. She's trying to look cute for church this past Sunday. And she put on some thick-soled Chucks, came down the stair in her Chucks. They got hung up on the carpet on the stairs, and she fell down the stairs and she broke a foot. She also hit a planter with her head, but my wife is hard-headed, and the planter took more damage than my wife's head did. Head's fine, foot's broken. So, now here's something you need to understand about my wife. My wife could be on death's door. She could be moments from death. And death would have to sit outside and wait for her while she finished cleaning up the house, doing the dishes and the laundry, because God forbid the house be wrecked. I love my wife, y'all. She can't stay put. She will not stay put. She is not one to put her feet up, even when it's broken. But I have forced compromise, and I've been getting up in the mornings. I tend to stay up very late and then sleep in. She gets up and takes my son to school. Well, I've been getting up 6:15, 6:30 in the morning, making sure he does his lunch and all that. But been getting him to school, coming home, taking care of her, getting the dog up, taking the dog out. I don't like to pick up dog poop. It makes me gag, but I've been picking up the dog poop in the yard, letting my wife sleep if she'll sleep, which she does not do because, again, she's not one to put her feet up. But I'm not making her try to hobble outside on crutches to take the dog out to use the bathroom, so I'm doing that before I go do my work for delaying going to the office. Yesterday, however, was different. Got up, got the kid ready for school, got him to school, took him through Chick-fil-A on the way there. We left in plenty of time, got home, dealt with the dog, headed off to the office. There was a wreck on the interstate. The interstate was shut down. I got to the office 5 minutes before I was supposed to be on the radio. Did radio from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., left, went and got my son from school, took him to cello practice, took him to piano practice. He does both. Took him to dinner, got him home, got my wife fed, started doing my work, got my wife ready for bed, and then the kid says, "Oh, I need chapel clothes for school. They've been in the laundry for a week." Well, my wife can't really do laundry because she's got a broke foot. She can't even reach into the washing machine, and yet she had tried. So I was like, okay, I'll take care of your chapel clothes. Let's get you in bed. We get mom in bed. Turns out Christy had washed some clothes with a black ink pen, and I'm throwing her clothes, folding the clothes in the dryer, putting the clothes from the washing machine into the dryer. I'm sure none of you care about this, but I'm telling you anyway because I'm patting myself on the back. There's ink everywhere. It's all over the washing machine. It's all over the clothes. So I go clean out the kitchen sink, fill it up with water and Dawn, throw Christy's clothes in there so they don't dry out, clean out the washing machine, put Gunner's clothes in the washing machine to get them washed, stay up until they're done to get them in the dryer, scrub Christy's clothes with rubbing alcohol and Dawn to get as much ink out as I can, put them back in the washing machine, wash them again, get to bed somewhere around 1 o'clock this morning, get up at 6:15 this morning to fluff the kid's clothes so he doesn't have wrinkled clothes for chapel, get him to school, come home, take the dog out. I got to be in Atlanta, take the dog out. The dog steps in the dog poop, then jumps on me. And so I get poop on me, have to go clean my clothes, get in the car, come to Atlanta. It's been a day already. It's been a 24 plus hour day, and I'm ready for the weekend. You think I'm ready for the weekend? You know who's ready for the weekend? Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer has overplayed his hand and gotten out ahead of his skis badly. Chuck Schumer wishes he's had my last 24 hours. This morning at 6:59 a.m., as I was taking my son through the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A before encountering the dog poop, the President of the United States tweeted, "I have a meeting today with Russ Vought. He of Project 2025 fame, to determine which of the many Democrat agencies, most of which are a political scam, he recommends to be cut, and whether or not those cuts will be temporary or permanent. I can't believe the radical left Democrats gave me this unprecedented opportunity. They are not stupid people. So maybe this is their way of wanting to, quietly and quickly, make America great again. President DJT." Mike Lee, the senator from Utah, last night said, and I quote, "Russ Vought has been dreaming about this moment since puberty." I will have you know I have known Russ Vought for 20 years, plus years. Russ Vought used to go on dates, and we would have to make him put his copy of the federal budget away so that the girl wouldn't be freaked out by how nerdy he was. He's very much into football. In fact, the only time I've ever won fantasy football, my fantasy football league in my life, I let Russ Vogt pick the teams for me, and I won, and they banned me for life from ever playing in the league again because Russ picked the teams and did too good of a job. Russ himself led the charge on banning me from fantasy football since I beat him too. I know Russ. Mike Lee is wrong. Russ Vogt has not waited since puberty for this moment. He has waited since the moment the sperm and the egg connected in his mother's womb for this moment. Russ Vogt hates big government. He has always hated big government. We used to sit around pitchers of beer at Union Pub in Washington, D.C., and dream of the day that we would be at a position of power to be able to dismantle the federal welfare state. And that day has arrived for Russell T. Vogt. And I am so excited that my friend is in charge of doing just that. He is, you should know, a devout Christian. He loves his daughters passionately. He's always been kind of a cat guy more than a dog guy. That's okay. He and I have spent many a day talking about him leaving politics and going to seminary. He takes his faith very seriously. He's a very good guy, and he is brilliant at this sort of stuff. He knows where everything is in the federal government. He knows how to navigate the situation. This is the headline from the Wall Street Journal this morning. Trump's budget chief, slayer of big government, moves quickly in shutdown. Russell T. Vogt has been planning for this moment for years. President Trump's budget chief, one of the main players in the government shutdown that has ground Washington to a halt, might also be one of its biggest beneficiaries, as the freeze gives him the opportunity to implement funding cuts he has long advocated. Vogt, director of the White House Office of Management and Budget, was quick Wednesday to target Democratic priorities and projects. In a move that affected Democratic congressional leaders from New York, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Vogt posted on Twitter that a hold had been put on $18 billion in federal funds for New York infrastructure work, a Hudson River Tunnel project, and a subway extension. The Transportation Department pinned the blame on the shutdown, saying a review of the contracting policies and their relationship to diversity, equity, and inclusion requirements couldn't move forward. Without a budget, the department has been forced to furlough the civil rights staff responsible for conducting the review, the agency said. Vogt also posted that $8 billion in Energy Department funds for climate projects would be canceled in more than a dozen Democrat-leaning states. He didn't specify which projects would be affected. Trump said he was planning to meet Thursday with Vogt. Last week, Vogt issued a memo directing federal agencies to craft plans for widespread layoffs in the event of a shutdown. He told House Republicans on a conference call Wednesday that layoffs likely would begin in another day or two, according to people on the call. While he didn't specify how many layoffs were in the pipeline, one person familiar with the call said Vogt indicated it would be consequential. Lindsey Graham, a close Trump ally, predicted a shutdown might not last long, in part because of the specter of Vogt. This OMB guy, you need to watch him. I think there's definitely a downside to a shutdown for the system. I think he will try to wreak havoc on the workforce. Yes, I think Russ Vogt will, because he believes much of the federal workforce is illegitimate and doesn't need to be there. The Democrats themselves are on defense over the shutdown and the illegal alien Medicare funding that they're denying, but I've got the receipts on that we'll get to. This, however, this is Angus King. He's the independent from Maine who votes with the Democrats.
I just came from the Senate floor where I took one of the most difficult votes I've taken since I've been in the Senate. I voted to keep the government open for a continuing resolution. The irony of this vote is many feel that this was an opportunity to stand up to Donald Trump, to vote no, and to fight back. The irony, the paradox is by shutting the government, we're actually giving Donald Trump more power. And that was why I voted yes. I did not want to hand Donald Trump and Russell Vogt and Stephen Miller additional power to decimate the federal government, to decimate the programs that are so important to so many people.
Yes. because Russ Vought's going to do that. The only thing I take issue with in the president's tweet that he put up this morning is he should have just met with Russ and gutted it all. He keeps giving the degree. He's always in deal mode. He's always willing to cut a deal. And so he's like, Democrats, I'm meeting with Russ Vought today. He's going to give me the list. He's going to start firing people. He's going to shut down programs. You don't have to do this. We could cut a deal. And poor Schumer's overrun. I was talking to a Democratic member of the Senate last night who is beside himself with Chuck Schumer, saying Schumer has no exit strategy from this shutdown other than to cave or get the Republicans to kill the filibuster. It seems very clear this is what the Democrats want at this point, is their only hope is for the Republicans to kill the filibuster, and they're not going to kill the filibuster. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it because the Republicans recognize that they could be in the minority at some point, and the Democrats want the Republicans to kill it because they also, being in the minority, know how useful it is, but they think they have a real shot next year of winning, which is delusional thinking. The Democrats are in over their head. The Democrats... They've never had an exit strategy. I wrote about this morning. Instead of redoing a monologue for you, let me just read you what I wrote this morning. Democrats and their fact-checking propagandists in the press insist there's no funding for illegal aliens and what Democrats want. The reality is, actually there is funding for illegal aliens. It's a small part of what they want, but big enough they don't want to get rid of it. And they want to restore National Public Radio and PBS. They'll shut down the government to give white progressives NPR and illegal aliens taxpayer-funded health care. It's a remarkable divergence from common sense and bad politics. Democrats have insisted Donald Trump's a threat to democracy, the second coming of Hitler, an authoritarian dictator, but fund health care for illegals and NPR for white progressives, and Democrats will gladly fund his concentration camps. They've boxed themselves in. They've dialed the rhetoric up to 16 on a 10-point scale, and they're demanding things that amount to a 2. In an alternate universe, the Democratic Party has shut down the federal government because the president has usurped the power of the purse and the taxing powers of Congress. He's applied tariffs against other countries, and those tariffs are harming Americans through high costs, a decline in business investment, and low wage growth and slow hirings at American corporations. Until Republicans stand up to the president on his use of Congress's taxing power and wrest control away from him, the Democrats will keep the government shut down. In this universe, Democrats have declared Donald Trump to be Hitler, but if he makes permanent the temporary health care subsidies of COVID that cover illegal aliens and fund progressive television and radio stations, he can go back to Hitlering to his heart's content. The Democrats will gladly fund it. They are a curiosity of incompetence. By the way, have you noticed that for 2-3 months they've been bragging that they were going to shut down the government, and now that they've shut down the government, they're like, it's not us. The internal polling must be terrible. In fact, they're furious with, what's his name, Siri Tinadar. He's the weird-looking congressman from Michigan who has, I think, painted-on eyebrows and a toupee. Sri Thanadar is his name, from Michigan. He got on social media on his way out of Washington, D.C., and he said this.
Returning back to Detroit this morning after the Republicans failed to show up in the U.S. House. We got to make sure Americans have the health care that they need. And if that means we got to shut this government down, so be it.
If that means we got to shut this government down, so be it. The Democrats are like Shri, we're trying not to own the shutdown. We're trying not. You put it back under the toupee. Y'all, this guy literally, he's got painted on eyebrows. I one time burned my eyebrows off by lifting my big green egg, not burping it sufficiently. I had to be on TV the next day. They literally painted my eyebrows on CNN for me. It was the wildest thing. The woman said she never painted eyebrows on a dude before. It didn't look quite natural. It didn't. This guy, I know that look because I've had it before. Mine was a real excuse. The big green egg burned them off, along with all the hair on my hands. This guy, I don't know what his excuse is, but someone has clearly I don't know where they even got the hair to do what they did to his eyebrows, but it's really weird, and he has thoroughly angered his Democratic friends by admitting that they are the ones who shut down the government. Y'all, I've been admonished about using the R word. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to use the R word. I won't even say like tardre in Pig Latin. I'll just say like Maxwell House Coffee is 30 feet over the runway. Have y'all heard about this? They've decided to rebrand from Maxwell House Coffee to Maxwell Apartment Coffee. I thought it was a joke. And I got to imagine that it is trying to get some buzz about this brand, but it seems real. After 133 years, I'm reading now the press release from Kraft Heinz. Today, Maxwell House rebrands to Maxwell Apartment to meet the needs of today's consumer and remind fans the brand is synonymous with great tasting, affordable coffee as more and more Americans no longer own homes but live in apartments. We wish to be relevant to them. Whoever did this at Maxwell House should be dragged into the street and flogged. I'm just saying, what a stupid idea. They'll turn it back and say it was always a joke. Now I got to tell you about the Eden Pure Thunderstorm, which maybe there are noxious fumes causing mental brain damage at Kraft Heinz, and they should get the Eden Pure Thunderstorm because it can wipe out bad odors like the stench of a stupid rebranding. Have they not learned anything from Cracker Barrel? You go to EdenPureDeals.com and you put in ERIC3, ERICK3. And you can get 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms. And unlike Maxwell House reminding you to give up on the American dream, the Eden Pure Thunderstorm can get rid of the terrible odors. They can even kill bacteria and viruses that flow through the machine and trap pet dander and dust and pollen. You get 3 of them for less than $200. You save $200. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code ERIC3. I have a friend of mine who ordered them, and she texted me, my Eden Pures got here today, decided to test one with the oven, had drippings burning. I can't believe how fast it started working. I'm actually shook, she said. Yes, she said that. You will have that same impression. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3.